This is nothing but that sports talk, where you have the game.
And welcome to Nothing But That Sports Talk. I'm Rafique Louison alongside Ryan Walker. And yeah, the NFL Divisional Playoffs is done. It's on to the conference titles games for the Green Bay Packers, Buffalo Bills, Tampa Bay Bucks, and the Kansas City Chiefs. What are your impressions about these games this weekend?
It's great. It was good. It was good. I was just watching some. You see, I'm still looking at the little highlights and stuff on the background. But I was watching some of the games. Try not to stay and go to sleep at the same time. But I was watching some of the games. I just came from work and everything not too long ago. Not too long ago, but still. But all the games were good this weekend. There's a lot of interesting calls in the Kansas City Browns games, but it was good. And that New Orleans Saints game in Tampa Bay was very interesting too. A lot of people was asking me about it. And like I told people, it's hard to beat a team three times in one season in the NFL. And you know, Tampa Bay found a way to turn it away. But to answer your question, all the games are good, and now we're down to the final four. So this is the nitty gritty.
Exactly. Especially since, Tom Brady balled out in the game against the Saints. He's not playing around this time. After getting spanked on Sunday Night Football literally 2 months ago, he woke up and told Drew Brees, this is my time to get to the Super Bowl, or at least the conference championship for the NFC. He really came out the ball.
Well, the one thing about with football, we're on the show a lot, and we touch every sport, but we go to basketball so much because we love basketball. It's predicated to basketball. We talk all sports, and the thing with football, what people don't understand, and I've tackled this topic with a lot of coworkers at the job, going back and forth. I don't got no issues with Tom Brady. I'm a Giants fan. We were fortunate in two big games to have success when he was at New England. But there's been other games that he has beat us in the regular season and so on and so forth. But with that being said, you get in New York, when you have a lot of Jets fans as well too, Jets and Giants, of course, it's New York. And shout out to Buffalo. Buffalo's doing big time, but we'll probably be talking about that in a second as well too. But you get a lot of people that had a lot of bad hate or energy towards Tampa Bay, or not even Tampa Bay, Tom Brady. He's older. Yeah, he's slowing down a little bit. He's regressing. Yeah, he's 43 years old. Yeah, he might not be able to do the things he did 10 years ago that he probably can't do now. But this is still the greatest quarterback of all time. Whether we feel that he's the greatest because he was in a system with Bill Belichick and everything was structured a certain way, that might be true. There's a lot of elements to that. But you know what? In sports, you need a lot of different elements to go your way in order to be successful. And everybody's environment is key towards who they are. You know what I mean? And the thing with Tom Brady, what people are forgetting is like, oh, he goes to Tampa Bay, he can't save them. It's not about saving them. It's about his presence and what happens once he gets into a locker room with a team, and his leadership and how winning just comes to him is so unparalleled. And now we look at the New England Patriots, no disrespect to Belichick, probably one of the greatest coach, if not the greatest NFL coach ever. You see the success they had this year. They didn't do too well. You understand what I'm saying? And that's not to say that Belichick won't bounce back, but that's to say that Tom Brady's impact is so big on a football team that we can see how much of a difference he makes. During the season, remember, everybody's getting together and feeling each other out. There was no OTAs because of COVID, the pandemic. Nobody could go into certain spring tryouts and all that stuff. There's certain things that you couldn't do. So a lot of teams were getting to know who they were on the run during the season. And that's what Tampa Bay was doing. Think about it. They're feeling each other out, and they won 11 games. This is the first year he's been down there with Tampa Bay. This is the first year Mike Evans and those receivers, Goodwin and those guys can get used to him. And yet they're one game away from the Super Bowl. And just like I said, just like with a few weeks ago with Baltimore and Tennessee, it's hard to beat a team three times in one season. Me and my guy was talking about it. He's a Cowboys fan, and he was asking me, he's like, yo, Rod, when was the last time a team, I said, it doesn't happen too often. And I had to sit and think the last time that a team beat a team three times in one season was with the Cowboys and the Eagles. And that was like 2010 or 2011, where Tony Romo and that team happened to beat the Eagles twice in the regular season, and they played them in the first playoff game in the first round. And same thing, they beat them again. But it's very difficult, and the Saints found that out the hard way.
Exactly. The New Orleans Saints know that Drew Brees' time is up. Like, this could be the last game of his career, but we'll
Most
get
likely.
to that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady lets the game come to him. He wastes no time making sure that he passes to the right receivers.
Correct.
The defense came up with 2 big interceptions in the fourth quarter that sealed the deal. What more can you ask from a Tom Brady-led team?
No, nothing. The defense did well for them, and that was the biggest thing, even with last year. Yeah, last year, what's the gentleman named? Jameis Winston, who I believe was the on the Saints, if I'm not mistaken. But Jameis Winston was the quarterback for Tampa Bay last year. He threw for 4,000 yards. 4,000 yards in an NFL season is a lot of yards for people who don't follow NFL like that. That's a lot of yards in a 16-game season. The problem with Jameis Winston last year is that as much as he threw the ball to his own team, to his teammates, he was throwing the ball to the other team as well, too. So if you're turning the ball over, it doesn't work out. 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, over 30 interceptions. So as much as you're giving, you're taking. Tom Brady's not going to do that. He's not a guy that's a turnover guy. And that's why with his presence there, that was just going to change how they move and how they protect the football. The game today between the Saints and the Tampa Bay, you said it best. New Orleans, 2 turnovers. Tampa Bay, none. And that's the football game right there. When you can give yourself the most opportunities with the football without giving it to the other team, you're going to give yourself a chance to win all the time. And that was the biggest thing. They're not going to turn it over. The defense made plays. Somebody who was crazy last year told me, oh, their defense sucked last year. I said, bro, they were top 10, top 15 in defense. They created turnovers. It's just that on offense, as much as they were scoring, they would give the football back. So if you're down 15, 20 points, it's only so good that your defense is going to look, especially when the offense is trying to come back. And Tom and those guys, they took care of their business. They really did. The Saints have had a lot of opportunities over the last few years and haven't capitalized. So, it is what it is. This is football, bro.
Yeah, outside the championship win in 2010-09, like the Saints literally could not overcome the hype. Like they really could not. And this is another example. This could be Drew Brees' last career, and this is how you go out. I would have gone out in a much better performance,
You'd want to,
whether it's playoffs or regular season, than throwing 2 interceptions in a close game. But who are we kidding? You're going up against Tom Brady, literally the Kobe Bryant of football. He has almost as many Super Bowl wins as Kobe Bryant did in championships. What do you know? It's a one-year anniversary, but that's a topic for another episode. But yeah, absolutely. This is greatness. Imagine Tom Brady goes all the way and wins the Super Bowl with a franchise that hasn't been to the Super Bowl since they spanked the Oakland Raiders nearly a decade and a half ago. Over a decade and a half ago, for being specific.
Yeah, it was a Rich Gannon. Who was that Super Bowl? Was that Rich Gannon? I think that was Rich Gannon. But yeah, that's the Tampa Bay team. John Lynch, Warren Sack. I think that was Brad Johnson at cornerback. I think Keyshawn might have came on that team over from the Jets. Keenan McCarr. I mean, they had a lot of good guys on that team. What's the gentleman name that's now in the Vegas Raiders? Nickname Chucky. John Gruden as the head coach. So it's been a while, and that's big time if he can take this franchise and think about it, to leave from one conference from the AFC and to go to the NFC and in exactly one season be one game away from the Super Bowl. That's big time. He's doing a little bit of a LeBron thing here. We're switching conferences and going to one side and getting, he's one game away. And, they played Green Bay. They beat Green Bay earlier in this season. Actually, they beat Green Bay very, very good earlier in this season. So Green Bay, I'm pretty sure, remembers that. And they're going to be playing with an extra chip on their shoulder. That's their home game. There's no fans per se. They're limited amount of fans, but that's still their home game. The only thing that's Tampa Bay has to be key about, I know that won't bother Tom Brady per se, because he's played in New England. That can get extremely cold during this time of the year for football. Green Bay is going to be very cold next week. So that's what the players probably got to get acclimated to. Tampa doesn't feel like Milwaukee. So they have to get used to that probably next week. And but I think they're in good position. I think they're in good position to win this game. And man, that'll be big time if he can come to the NFC and find a way to beat Drew Brees and then beat Aaron Rodgers' team and get to that Super Bowl. That's big time. They don't give him 7 now. Don't let this man win 7. If he wins 7, I don't want to hear no debates. I don't want to hear no Joe Montana. I don't want to hear no Dan Marino. I don't want to hear my cousin is the best quarterback. He's the greatest quarterback to ever play football. Period.
Exactly. And yeah, at least no matter what happens in Tom Brady's career, the Giants can sit here and say that we never lost to them in the Super Bowl once.
Yes,
At
yes,
least
we never lost
that
to them in Super
we
Bowl.
can
Thank
agree
God.
on. But imagine if he beat the Giants and redeemed himself and won that one Super Bowl they did lose to the Eagles. Don't even
You
talk.
talk.
That's
You not.
something that you would have definitely say if it wasn't for those losses.
That's 9 Super Bowls if it goes the other way. So and it's not like on those 3 Super Bowls, it's not like he lost by a lot. So a lot of those games could have went any. It's a game of
Exactly.
inches.
Exactly. And yeah, let's just delve in the room here. Like, what are your impressions about the New Orleans Saints' playoff run, especially since last week in a wild card game against the Chicago Bears, you beat them handily in front of Nickelodeon audience.
Well. Maybe they need some more slime. Honestly, they play. No disrespect to the Bears. The Bears are a playoff team. They're good, but they had a tough year this year. They started off well. They were playing bad in the middle of the year. Trubisky wasn't playing too great at one point. He got hurt. What's the gentleman that was the backup quarterback on the Eagles and won a Super Bowl? His name will come to me in a second. He was doing Nick Foles. Nick Foles was doing terrible with them. Trubisky came back. They got back into a rhythm. I'm not too big on Trubisky neither. So that's a whole different story. But they were very fortunate to play the Bears last week. And Trubisky didn't play. And there were some guys that were missing from that Bears team. So they got a nice little cruise. And the Saints were fortunate too, because think about it. They started off so well. Breeze got hurt early. They filled it together with Tatum Hill, who's probably going to be their quarterback, I'm presuming, of the future. And then Drew Brees came back. They had won a few games, but they got back into a rhythm. But he was still trying to get his rhythm back and, not get hurt again. He's not a spring chicken. He's dealt with a few injuries in the past few seasons. And so now when they finally get back, all right, the playoff comes, only one team gets a bye. You play the Bears. They had the easiest contest from anybody in the NFC starting off, per se, with a game. You beat the Bears, boom. Professional team, Bears competed. They couldn't get the victory. Now you play Tampa Bay this week, whole different ball game. So, I mean, I don't know how much of a run we want to call that. That was like a jog, because they played the Bears, and after playing the Bears, they played Tampa Bay, who was very up to their game today. And the results is history. They have a lot of things to think about. Like you said, Drew Brees is 90% retired. I don't know if he's going to come back and play football, which means now they have to figure out where they're going with their quarterback. Are they going to go with Tatum Hill, or is it Jameis? Are they going to go with another quarterback? Who knows? But I don't live in New Orleans. That's a problem they got to figure out. I'm a Giants fan, so I will worry about our only teams in New York and go from there.
Yeah, that is very interesting points. I mean, and not to mention the fact that the Saints, well, honestly, that game should have been worth getting slimed, if you know what I'm talking about. They could have televised that game somewhere else.
Correct.
And
That
yeah,
was
since we're on the subject of Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers, this, like you mentioned this before, Tampa Bay smoked Green Bay. I have a feeling that he could do it again in Lambeau Field. And there were fans in Lambeau Field too. There were fans
yeah.
yesterday.
There's limited fans. Listen, Skip Bayless on First Take. If Tom Brady goes down there and beats Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau Field, he will never ever stop talking. Never, never. He's a big Tom Brady dude, but that's a huge feat to think about it. If he comes from the AFC and comes to the NFC and beats these two teams, to get to the championship, that's going to say a lot. Drew Brees is a Hall of Fame quarterback, one of the greatest to play ever. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Fame. He's a Super Bowl quarterback, one of the greatest to play ever. Aaron Rodgers' skill set and talent is definitely unparalleled. And if he does that, and then guess what? You know where the Super Bowl is being hosted at?
Tampa Bay. I was just going to talk about
go.
that. I was just going to say, guess where the Super Bowl is? But you beat me to it. I was actually about to mention that earlier in the podcast, but yeah. Imagine everybody going to want to come out in Florida since, you know, they are allowed to have fans in those games, but whatever.
Wear a mask.
This has the potential to be a big year for Tampa Bay.
This could be huge for them. I know I got one of my guys, Hooley uptown. He's a big Tampa Bay fan, one of the very few in New York State. But so I know he's a later right now. I told him I won a lot of money last week, messing with Tom Brady. And I really wanted to. I did not pick them this week. I agree that the Saints on paper were more talented and the better team per se, not by far and bounds, just slightly, especially since New Orleans has a very good defense as well too. But my biggest fear, and what I was telling people, was it's hard to beat a team 3 times in one season in the NFL. It really, really is. People might not understand it. Like in the NBA and basketball, you know, it's 82 games. This year is 72, but it's 82 games. So it's more realistic to beat somebody 3 times in a season. You know, MLB, you play 162 games. So you'll play your division team 15 to 18, maybe sometimes 21 times. It's more easier to understand beating a team 3 times or more in that sport. When you do it in the NFL in a 16-game season, that means that you only play your division team twice. So if your division team beats you twice, and then you both were good enough to finally get to the playoffs and happen to meet each other again, and then you beat them again, that says a lot. You know what I mean? That not just talent. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck. You know what I mean? You need the breaks to go your way with certain things, because it's very hard to beat a team, especially when you're familiar with them. A great analogy. We watch college basketball, it's so tough, right? That's why conference games are tougher than anything else, because you play your conference teams more. And when you're in your conference, your program recruits or builds teams to play within your conference. So that's the reason why you usually have more, competition in those games where they go closer, because it's division games. And that's what's going on with what I said with Tampa Bay, that that's not good on New Orleans side. Sometimes it's good to split with a team, and then sometimes you might go in a little bit overconfident. Who knows if the Saints were like, yeah, we respect Tom Brady, we know it's Tampa Bay, but we beat these guys 2 times, we know what we could do. Sometimes you're a little bit up there cloud 9, and you don't humble yourself. And that's the worst motivation for a team that is coming in hungry to say, you know what, we haven't beat these guys, we need to get at least one of these wins. Their sense of urgency was a little bit high. It showed they were down in the game, and created turnovers to score, and they just did what they had to do. So
yeah, it is what it is. But on to Green Bay's win over the Los Angeles Rams yesterday. Like, what are your impressions about that? I mean, it's basic. You're facing Los Angeles Rams. Everybody knew they were going to win. Even if they upset Russell Wilson in the wild card rounds, they were not going to upset the Green Bay Packers. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened was supposed to happen. The Rams, incredible defense, good coach. Jonathan Goff is good, but I always told you it's predicated on Jonathan Goff. And that's how far they go. And I still think he's a product of that system. I don't want to sound like a hypocrite by saying Tom Brady being a part of. Everybody needs to be a part of some kind of system, but sometimes I think they babying Jonathan Goff. They need to let him make mortal play calls. He's been in the league for a while. You got to trust him with certain things. I mean, that's just me personally. I could be wrong as well, but that's exactly what's supposed to happen. And the Rams showed times this year where they could look really good, and then really, I think their defense took them a long way with that front four, their secondary, their linebackers as well. But it was exactly what it was. That division's interesting. Listen, my Giants played the Seahawks, because this is the NFC West. It's the Seahawks, the Rams, San Francisco. Who else is in that division? San Francisco, Seattle. Arizona. There we go. Now look at this division here. My Giants played the Seahawks with Colt McCoy with a backup quarterback, and we went down there and won. We played the Rams earlier in the season when we still didn't have any wins, and we lost 17-9. They had to score a touchdown with 6 minutes in the fourth quarter to make it 17-9. And this is the Giants still. That were 6-10. We're talking about here. The Jets beat Seattle. Enough said, right?
Actually, they beat the Rams.
Pardon me, the Jets beat the Rams. Yes, and pardon me, they didn't beat Seattle. Seattle creamed them early in the year. I'm sorry. The Jets beat the Rams. Even more to my point. The Jets beat the Rams, right? So this shows you that in that division, those are teams that Seattle wasn't that super great. Russell Wilson makes them great. DK Metcalf is an incredible receiver. They had a great receiving core. They were interesting on defense. They got guys that are playmakers. They got the gentleman from the Jets who's a playmaker, Mr. Adams. They have a good corner. They gave up yards to a lot of teams this year. Same thing with the Rams with certain situations, not defensively, but there were games there was like, really, you playing this team like that? So that was not surprising at all. Green Bay did what they had to do. The Rams, Jonathan Goff, that's really always going to be their future for the next couple of years.
Yeah, no doubt. And even though they had made a Super Bowl a few years ago, but couldn't necessarily do anything against Tom Brady. I mean, it's like we already talked about Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time. And his wins did come against the Los Angeles Rams. Well, yeah. Since we're on the subject of presence, the Rams are they have a lot of development to do. That's all I could say.
Yeah. They scored 3 points in that Super Bowl. Whoop-dee. Thank the
Lord. That's all we're going to say about that. But let's shift our focus to the AFC real quick because Kansas City almost blew it. I mean, Patrick Mahomes got hurt, and the Browns got to within just 5 points. But all Kansas City Chiefs had to do was just get enough first downs to run down the Browns' timeouts in order to seal the deal. But you got to give credit to the Cleveland Browns. They did a lot better than we thought, spanking the Pittsburgh Steelers and then holding their own against the Kansas City Chiefs team that were last year's Super Bowl champions.
Yes.
Let's be real.
They say something. Cleveland almost won that game. And
almost.
They almost won that game. Kansas City is still my pick. I want to pick to win everything. You know, I always said as long as Patrick Mahomes is healthy, and we've seen that almost not work out today, that they're going to be a very tough team to beat. But if anybody can beat them, though, and we're going to probably speak about them in a second, is that good old team in upstate New York, in Buffalo, who has all the keys to beat them and played them very close this year. But there was a play, I don't know if you've seen that play with D. Higgins. It was 16-3. And this is around the time I believe that Mahomes didn't get hurt as of yet. He had the ankle thing during the game, and then later on the concussion put him out. So yes, the Cleveland was driving. They were driving down the field. Baker made like 3 really, really impressive throws, and he threw it to Higgins on a route, and Higgins is coming around. He's about to score the ball. You know how everybody puts the ball out to hit the foul for the end zone. When he puts the ball out, the ball gets deflected. Now, I think it was Sorensen that came for the hit, and he hit him, and everything was so bang, bang. I mean, the referee was standing there, so I'm being cynical because I'm like, how could he miss that hit? But basically, the way Sorensen came in, it was helmet to helmet. So the helmet to helmet collision made the ball come loose. When the ball came loose, it bounced inbounds in at the 1 or something and bounced into the end zone. Now, the rule in the NFL, which these guys were making sense about it, they need to change that rule, is that, of course, if you're an offensive player going into your respective end zone and you fumble the ball and it bounces into the end zone.
Yeah, you're talking about the play where he made that crazy catch only for it to go out of bounds, and then it became a touchback, Kansas City. Of course, I mean, come on. That was back when they were down 16-3. Yeah, I was going to do something like that. I mean, imagine if it went in Cleveland's way, they would have won that game.
Think about it. They scored that touch. If they score a touchdown there,
that's
16-10.
You know what? It can't. Yeah, I was gonna touch up on that, but it just that
That's
was
huge.
how do you man, how do you explain
because
that going out of bounds? I mean, kudos to Kansas City for winning, but how do you explain
Kansas City
you
won.
make the catch,
Mm-hmm.
the quarterback deflects the ball out of bounds, go into the end zone, Kansas City touchback. How you we're not referees, so only they know how to explain it.
Yeah, well, first they need to change that rule. It should not be a touchback for that play. It should be that the offensive team gets the ball on the 1 or something or the 10, but they should be able to retain the ball. It shouldn't be that the other team gets the ball and you get it on the 25. That's crazy. But um the if the referee would have been able to see, it was so quick. That's the only thing I'm gonna give it. But he was good enough to see that the ball went out for the deflection, which he made that, because you should have seen me when I'm watching the play. I'm like, oh, touchdown, oh, touchback, oh, touchback. So I'm like, oh crap, touchdown went away, touchback went away. So if you've seen that really quick, you have to see that there was a helmet to helmet there. If you make the helmet to helmet call, which is the correct call, the fumble and everything is null and void. It doesn't count. He would have the ball right there on the 1 yard line, the way of the hit. And then now Cleveland has a first down and 4 times to go in on the 1 yard line to score. That changes the game. Now you can go 16-10. Who's to say off that fumble, Kansas City took the ball down the field and scored a field goal. They almost scored a touchdown. That made it 19-10. Your quarterback goes out in the third quarter. That's huge. What was the final score?
22-17.
Think about that. That is a huge turnaround there. That's you losing 7 and then gaining 3. So that's 10 points in essence that you're thinking about, which changes the game. 7 you didn't get, 3 that you gave to them. So that's huge. And then it's momentum. Who they could have scored the on that drive. Who's to say if Kansas City would have went down and scored a touchdown? Who's to say if they would have went down and scored a field goal? Let's suppose Cleveland would have been able to get the football back and then maybe before the half put up a field goal. Now you're saying 16-13 and you get the ball coming in and out the half.
That is just wild. I mean, the referees always made controversial calls, but you know what? It already happened. You can't do anything
It's
about it.
done now. It's over.
What you can do is hope that the Cleveland Browns actually know what they're doing if they were to redo that play all over again.
Well, it's a tough play. He's got to have, at the end of the day, the ball was in the receiver hands, D. Higgins. So you have to do everything in your power to maintain ball security. So before we look in the mirror at somebody else, we have to look in the mirror at himself. He didn't make that play there. However, if somebody's helmet is in your helmet, it's probably going to be a little hard to always hold on to the football. And I think that's what has to take into consideration. So the ref missed that call. And because if the play can be reviewed for the touchback, that's the next part they need to change. That should be able to be reviewable. If it was reviewable, then we could see that the helmet to helmet was made, and now you can go back and throw the flag for the penalty to null and void everything and make sure that everything goes correct. That's the point of everything, right? That's the point of the instant replay of baseball, right?
And not to mention, and you know what? Now that I think about it, the referees in the NFL have made a lot of rule changes throughout the years.
Yes.
Yes.
And
how many more changes do they need to make?
Yeah. If you a Cleveland Browns fan, or in general, and as much,
it was disappointing.
They haven't won since Jim Brown. You think they not upset today? They haven't went to the playoffs in 20-something years. And then to have it come down to that, those are the things that you just add to your memory. It's like being a Knicks fan. It's like being a Bengals fan. Those are the stuff you just keep adding to your lovely diary of different ways of how things couldn't work out for you. And that situation right there is huge. Shout out to them. They had a big time season anyway. Their future is bright. If they grow off this, they're in good shape. You know what I mean? But that's just still a very tough way, because you're looking at they had a very good shot to put down the champions. And think about it. Patrick Mahomes gets hurt during the game with a concussion. Most likely he'll probably be back because trust me, they're probably going to send him every vaccination in the world to make sure that in 7 days he can play football because that is the future for Kansas City right there. When he was, you know, Erin from the Ballers Journal?
Yes.
I know she almost fainted when that man went down. Everybody in Kansas City's heart dropped when that man went down because that is, he go down, that changed everything. So he's most likely going to be back in 7 days. Hopefully, concussion protocol. We got to see how bad that is as well too. But now you have their quarterback down in the third quarter with a missed touchdown from a call earlier. This is the perfect opportunity in the world to beat them. You know what I mean? Buffalo might have to play, I guess, I won't say a healthy Patrick Mahomes, but he'll be present.
Yeah, that should really be a problem because look at how well they defended Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC wildcard like 2 nights ago, or last night to be exact. Like, come on. Including a key play where Lamar Jackson threw to the end zone and they got like literally a 106-yard pick six.
Yeah, it wasn't that long. It was just the longest interception in postseason history, right?
Seriously, you know, how can you explain Buffalo not making the Super Bowl after what we saw last night? The way they defend Lamar Jackson, who's literally one of the greatest quarterbacks in this generation of the NFL.
Yeah. Buffalo's playing very, very well. They're doing amazing. And that goes to the game of inches too, because guess what? If Cleveland wins that game, I'm pretty sure Buffalo would have been a little bit happy of hosting Cleveland in their house rather than have to go down to Kansas City. But that's a whole different story as well too. But Buffalo's doing amazing. I got 2 people that I currently know that are Buffalo fans. So I know right now they're probably sitting on cloud 9. They've been through a lot over the last few years. They've been through a lot with that franchise in general. 4 straight losses in the Super Bowl, but even though they had great teams. And it's good for upstate. I'm not a hater. People who are Giants and Jets fans I'm not a hater. Buffalo's doing their thing. They're still a part of New York. Yes, it's upstate New York, but it's still New York. They are doing well
for a while now. Like,
yeah, people got to stop that hate, man.
I was gonna say, you know what? I was gonna get you this one question real quick before I let you continue speaking because this is very interesting. As a New York sports fan, would you be wrong to support the Buffalo Bills on the way to the Super Bowl, especially when they win it all?
I think not. We gotta grow up. We're not 10 years old, 15 years old in high school where it matters everything, but you still have your team preferences. But we all adults. We live in New York. You don't have to. I don't mean go buy a jersey and put $5,000 into their register for the game tickets. If you like your team, you like your team. But if you're in New York and your team is not doing well, and they also represent New York, you can support them without being a bandwagon. If I'm making any sense, I always tell people that there's a difference between a front runner and a bandwagon. A front runner fan is a person who only can like teams that have a prevalent past, and it's easy to like that team. Like a front runner fan would be, no disrespect to anybody with this fan base, a front runner fan is like a Cowboys fan, a Yankees fan, a Duke basketball fan. It's easy to like those teams even when they're not doing well because they're prolific franchises, if you understand what I mean. The Lakers could be bad for 10 years. They're still the Lakers. So it's easy to be a fan of that team. It's not easy to be a Jets fan. You have to be loyal. It's not easy to be a New York Mets fan. You have to be loyal if you like those teams. A bandwagon guy is a guy who picks different teams all the time and just switches all the time, and you got to deal with it. And they make sure they switch to a team that's good. That's a bandwagon fan. So the thing and I said it, we're gonna record this show and film it 1,000 times so we can make sure people understand the difference between that, because we got a lot of those that we know personally. But if Buffalo is playing well and my Giants are not in, I sound like a hater to say F Buffalo. I don't want them to do well. That's crazy. They lost 4 times in the Super Bowl. We've won before plenty of times. If it's their time now, it's their time now. They win this. That still represents the state of New York. You know what I mean?
Exactly. When you watching the Buffalo Bills and the New York Giants duke it out of the Super Bowl, like way back in the late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around that, you really see the battle between New York teams.
Correct. You
Without
can
question.
still support without supporting if the only team
where the Buffalo Bills missed a go ahead field goal. Man.
We won that Super Bowl by literally inches.
Barely won. I mean, I wasn't thought of at the time, to be fair, but yeah.
I was young. I was probably like 5 or 6 when that Super Bowl, maybe 4 or 5, something around those ages when it happened. But I'm always recapping through the highlights and the archives. That was, I mean, inches that the Giants won that Super Bowl. So you know, it could go anyway, but you can support a team in your own town or a team that you don't like as long as it represents your state or city without necessarily, you know, losing rank for the teams that you respectively like. And if Buffalo's doing well, I'm supporting. I'm not going to say, oh, I don't want, why would I cheer? As much as I know Kansas City is better than Buffalo, I would rather see Buffalo win. I don't live in Kansas City. That's good for Erin in Baller's Journal. She from Kansas City. You know, she could go down there to the parade. You know what I mean? I don't live down there, so it don't make no sense to me to my city. But for somebody that's from down there, yeah, I get it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm definitely gonna wish them more success in hockey. I'm a Rangers fan, but I live in Long Island. I support what the Islanders do. If the Islanders are doing well, the Islanders were making their run last year. I was a big supporter to say, yo, listen, keep the push going, keep the push going. At the end of the day, they win. There's a parade around the corner near my neighborhood. There ain't no parade nowhere else if they win. So you support the team even though you don't like them. Now, when they play the Rangers, you know, my hat's all in with the Rangers. But at the end of the day, they still New York. You know, the only team that dynamic is tough for me on is baseball, because I think that's the only sport truly, even though Giants and Jets have their rivalry in New York, but still, you know, sometimes for the most part, a Giants fan can lean down a little bit because the Jets hasn't had as much success per se as a Giants fan. But Yankees Mets, no, I'm sorry. That's like Bloods and Crips. You got to pick one in New York, and then when you pick one, you pretty much stay there. And the fan base of the Mets, who can be very obnoxious, and we do have a lot of pompous, arrogant Yankees fans too. So they probably bust the Mets fans' chop too. That's where that dynamic never goes. You got to pick. But silently to what I'm saying, that if the Yankees weren't in and the Mets were making a run, I would definitely support the Mets to do well. I wouldn't wear none of their memorabilia because none of that is definitely ever going to happen. I'm a Yankee fan. But I would, behind closed doors, support them to do. I wouldn't tell none of those Mets fans, because those people, that fan base, you can't, the Mets fans base, and that's a whole different subject one day we'll talk about, is some of the most obnoxious, unrealistic fan base I've ever come across in the face of my life. Yes, New Yorkers, the Mets fan base. Next question.
Yeah. One question that's in my mind: which Super Bowl matchup do you think is going to happen? Starting with Tampa Bay versus Green Bay. You probably said this, but for those that are just tuning in, just say it.
You know what I want to see? It's hard to say. I don't want to say that. It's really hard. I want to see Buffalo and Tampa Bay.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like I'm not surprised at all. But then again, Tom Brady's going to dominate Buffalo. Let's be honest.
Well, Buffalo's really good, but
in Tampa. Tom Brady owns the Buffalo Bills. Let's be honest. That's a cakewalk for Tom Brady.
I wouldn't say that. Buffalo's good. Buffalo's really good.
That's a good point.
But Buffalo's really good. I think they'll have a better chance than what people did. That's what kind of why I was hoping that Cleveland could sneak it out, because that would have been kind of cool to see Buffalo and Cleveland. Cleveland hasn't won in 50 something years. 60-something years or something like that. And then Buffalo has never won a Super Bowl, lost 4 times in a row. That would have been good to see who would have finally got that ring after that time. But I mean, if Patrick Mahomes is fine and healthy, and I mean Green Bay's playing so well, it's easy to say Kansas City and Green Bay, for the mortgage and the rent money. That's the easy one to go with. You know what I mean? Kansas City, Green Bay's playing so well. But this one is really, really tough. I like what Buffalo's doing, and I like the fact that Buffalo played Kansas City very, very close the last time they played in the regular season. I think they only lost by like 8 points. So if Patrick Mahomes is not looking sharp, and Buffalo does have a good defense, you've seen what they did again, what they played yesterday. You've seen what they did yesterday against Baltimore, or they had Baltimore looking befuddled. So this is Kansas City's offense is a lot more dynamic than Baltimore's. So we know that's a different way they would have to defend. But this is going to be very, very good, this Final Four, man. These are 14, and all 4 of these teams can go to the Super Bowl. And it sounds cliche because, yeah, they're all in the Final Four. No, all 4 of these teams are very, very formidable enough to go to the Super Bowl. Buffalo lost 3 games, right? Buffalo lost 3 games. Think about one of your losses is to Kansas City, the Super Bowl champion. The Kansas City has lost 5 games in 3 years. So they beat a lot of teams in 3 years, right? And then another game Buffalo lost to was the DeAndre Hopkins. Remember that Hail Mary game?
Yeah, that was great. That was epic.
Buffalo was up 24 points in that game.
And they choked.
And a Hail Mary. So that's 2. Think about that. They could easily have 1 loss. They lost to the world champs in the regular season, and they blew a 24-point lead to Hail Murray, right? So you're talking about Tampa Bay, an 11-win team, greatest quarterback of all time, very good defense, playing with a chip on their shoulder. Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, MVP probably this year. 3 losses, annihilated everybody except for Tampa Bay, like one other team. You know what I mean? And Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes with Tyreek Hill. Nothing else to be said. These are 4 teams that can win, and Josh Allen is young and upcoming with Buffalo. So, put you roll the dice and put your number in the hat.
I'm going to take a big gamble on this and go with Buffalo versus Tampa Bay as well. It looks predictable, but I'm taking a big gamble with this one. Tampa Bay versus Buffalo. Make it happen.
Tampa Bay. Oh Lord, you're gonna make all the gamblers gonna go to the bookie spot immediately.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady hosting in Tampa Bay, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. And to end the segment, you want to know what else is pretty cool other than the football talk that we just had? We witnessed James Harden have a triple-double his first game with the Brooklyn Nets. What do you mind seeing that?
Man, we talked about it before. If as long as they understand that there's one basketball and they got to share it, which they're all saying the right things that they're going to do that. Hopefully it works out. They're going to be very, very scary in the East. And I know quietly Milwaukee and Philadelphia are on notice. As much as they're going to be doing their own thing, they're going to be paying attention to what's going on with Brooklyn with that. And this is coming from a Knicks fan, so there's no hate. There's just a good perspective of it. If they gel, there's no team in the Eastern Conference. I don't care. I know Milwaukee got better because I like what they did with Holiday, with the acquisition at the point guard. I like how they filled up certain things and they play in the right way. We know Antetokounmpo is special. Philadelphia with Doc Rivers down there with that leadership is amazing. And Boston's a good team too, even though as we failed. Please tell me how the Knicks lost 5 games in a row
and blew out the
106 to 103 to the Cavs and come on TV today and blow out the Celtics. I don't care if Tatum.
I know you were enjoying that win.
Unbelievable. Lose 5 straight, lose to the Cavs 106, 103, come out and blow out the damn Celtics on TV. Come on, Knicks. Well, Knicks, you just know how to just do it. Just kill me every single time. But they had a big time win today on TV. But Celtics is a top team too. But if that Brooklyn team gels, Nobody's going to want to play that. You got 3 guys in your lineup that can get that total is going to score 100 points. This is not even a joke. You have 3 guys in your starting lineup that can generate 100 points. Everybody keeps telling me, what about the bench? I watched them. It was against our Knicks, but I watched them against the Knicks the first night with those kids and those role players. They played pretty well. And all I'll tell you is this. If you got 3 guys that can score 100, brother, the other idiots just got to score 20 to 25 points. That's it.
And that's the low-key problem. They offensive oriented, but they're being coached by the 2000s Phoenix Suns. Let's be honest. Offenses, I mean, all their offensive weapons is good, but let's not forget defense is important.
They have
to. They got to improve their scoring defense. DeAndre Jordan has to get better, get back to what he used to be. Well, correct. The bench has to get some involvement too. They can't keep depending on James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving, especially since the way James Harden and Kyrie Irving acted prior to this trade.
Well, that's the key. James has played well last night. He's going to play well, but James, you my man, you still got to trim about 10 or 12 pounds there, brother. We still see a little. You was eating good in Houston. You got to trim about 10 to 12, 13 more of them pounds. When Kyrie comes back, he has to get his head back into the game. They all figure out how to share and get that chemistry together. And then once they do that and gel, they could be fine. I think, I don't know who's going to bring the defensive philosophy to them, but I mean, they do have guys that can defend. Kevin Durant is a very good defender. I don't know if people just predicate his offensive game. This guy can shot block. He can protect at the rim. He can rebound. James, and I told this lady on this chat we were having, because at first she wasn't fond of the Brooklyn trade. I said, how can you not be fond of James Harden? But nevertheless, they're like, oh, we can't play any defense. James Harden over the years and social media, even the stuff we're doing now, social media has a great way of picking little elements of certain things, piecing it together, and then saying, this person can't do that. This person can't do that. So the whole rhetoric is James Harden can't play no defense. Okay. James Harden can't play no defense. So let's pick out the numbers. Do you know who led the league in steals last year in the NBA?
James Harden.
Can you say that one more time?
James Harden.
Okay, James Harden led the league in steals in the NBA, everybody. Let's get that straight. And in the last 5 years, he's been top 5 in steals. All you got to do is hit your Google button if you think I'm lying, and you check it out. And correct me if I'm wrong. Was there not a playoff game last year where James Harden blocked a shot to win the shot in a game?
Yes, there was. Game 7 was, right? OKC. He made that crazy block in Game 7.
Yeah, maybe my TV's not working. Maybe it's your TV. Maybe everybody else is not
I think it was working. James Harden made that ridiculous defensive play in the bubble. Like, we can't sleep on that. You can't sleep on that. Like,
he makes plays on defense when necessary, when he has to. Kyrie's probably more the person you have to worry defensively. But then again, you just got to have him stay in front, and now they rim protect. DeAndre Jordan has to get better at the rim protecting, which we know he can do when he's playing at a high level. I wish they would play the kid Claxton off the bench more. The 6'10" kid, the yellow dreads thing going on his hair. Play the other guys and see. But then you got to gel and play together. Because their biggest thing, unfortunately, is that their offense is going to have to be their biggest defense, where they put the pressure on teams so bad that it just wears them down. So that now on defense, you look for turnovers or you're systematic. They're going to be fine. They can talk about all that defense you want. When you got 100, Kevin Durant had 42 points last night, guy. Harden had 34. Kyrie didn't play.
Well, James Harden and Kevin Durant and Jeff Green, they're used to playing together. And after watching last night, it's like they haven't missed a beat ever since they separated.
They play in Milwaukee. All right. And Antetokounmpo guards Durant. Who guarded James Harden?
Drew Holiday?
Drew Holiday could play defense, and he is good. He all right. He guarding James Harden?
No, yeah.
So who guarding Kyrie?
But honestly, that's going to be complicated. That's the coach to decide. Like,
yeah, and I'm hearing Dinwiddie has a chance to come back. I don't know. I didn't even think that was realistic. But now I'm hearing Dinwiddie, it's not that bad. It's like a partial tear. So if he ever comes back later on in the season, God bless. And Joe Harris can shoot threes. Listen, They don't. The last thing Milwaukee and Philly and the NBA wants is for that to gel. If they gel, it's gonna be a problem.
Well, they already gelled yesterday without Kyrie Irving playing. I mean, but then again, it's the Orlando Magic. So what's that really
It is
hard
the
to do?
Orlando Magic. I mean, they're an
Orlando's
NBA
not
team.
that tough to beat. I mean, even though they did get one game from Milwaukee in the bubble, but they're not that hard to beat. I'll give them credit for their development as a team. I mean,
Correct.
Eric Gordon is a incredible high flyer.
Cole Anthony down there, New York kid.
Yeah.
So we love Cole. Shout out to Cole. You know what I mean? I think Mo Bamba, Harlem, Mo Bamba down there too. So, we're being facetious. They're an NBA team. They're young and upcoming, but they're not upper echelon. So yes, New Jersey, Brooklyn did what they were supposed to do, but yes, we have to see how that bounces with everybody else. But that's a lot of talent, man. That's a lot of talent, and that gives them an opportunity in the next 1 to 4 years. From now to the next 3 to 4 years, as long as those guys are under this contract, they're going to be contenders, and they're going to be right in that mix. And the Lakers and the Clippers will have something else to worry about on the other side. Preferably the Lakers. The Clippers still got to reassure all of us, even though they are 9-4 now, and they're like third in the Eastern, the West. I mean, third best record in the NBA. Excuse me. So we still do have to pay attention to that as well.
Yeah, and as we're recording, we're witnessing the Clippers literally dominating the Indiana Pacers. So, but then again,
10-4. there it goes. Change the record. So they're still good.
Now, but I mean, well, they're at half, but yeah, that's all.
What's the score?
Well, well, we don't need to talk about that game since
Oh yeah, so it's really bad. So
we don't really need to talk about that game since it's going to be done by the time I post this anyway. But
pretty much.
Yeah, let's get into a little bit more about the New York Knicks. 5-game losing streak. I mean, 4 of the losses were excusable, but I was at least hoping they defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers. And even though Julius Randle came up with that big dunk to cut it to just a 2-point game, the turnovers killed them. It's good that they got a blowout win against the Celtics, but Jason Tatum didn't play.
Yeah, that's what crazy me. And the Cavs game, the Cavs had a lot of guys injured in that game too. And they played the same Cavs about a week and a half ago and beat on them pretty good, and then they were decimated in this game with injuries. Colin Sexton did not play. I don't believe Darius Garland played, if I'm not mistaken. They had guys that were out. And whatever. So the Knicks lose that game 106-103. And I'm at work because I work Sundays 7 to 3 at my job. So same thing on Sundays. Sundays, there's always work at my job, but Sundays is a little bit slower than the regular days. And we have, at my job, we have many TV screens on different floors in the building. So, when it's football season, definitely, whenever I know the Giants are about to come out of the Jets, I go find a screen somewhere and I start watching some of the game. And then by the time my shift's over, I probably run home and watch the rest or whatever the case may be. So today, I just happened to look at the paper that's the front. I said, oh crap, the Knicks play at 1. I said, that's smart because the first 4 games at 3. So they probably, all right, a little basketball before, the NFL games come on. So I went downstairs. I threw the game on the TV. I seen it first. They were okay in the first quarter. Went back to work. I was working on the floor. I said, I'm going to check the score. I checked the score about an hour later. So me and my coworker, we're both Knicks fans. And I said, let me go downstairs and check the score. We both look at it at the same time. And when I changed, I said, damn, man, before the TV comes on, you can't see the score at first. I'm like, damn, we probably down by like 20, 25. Tatum probably got 30. Brown probably got 30. We just exaggerating. We look at the score. It is 62-39. I said, I changed the channel and I put it back.
I know you were. I know it's a big thing. You were happy when that happened.
I thought it was a Knicks encore. I thought it was the Knicks in the 90s playing the Celtics against in the 90s. I said, they lying to me. There is no way this is the New York Knicks that just lost to the Cavaliers 106-103, and you're telling me they're up 62-39? I don't care if Tatum didn't play. The Celtics without Tatum is still better than the New York Knicks. And for us to be up 100 points to them, I said, unbelievable. Watch, in 3 days, they'll play Freeport High School and lose by 50, but then come out and have a performance like that today. But you know what? Without me being cynical, what I told people about the Knicks, You have to remember, this is still a transition team. Leon Rose is the new president there. Please, James Dolan, do not interfere and come down. Just give them the money, run the team, collect your check, and let Leon Rose do what he is doing. Don't interfere like you did with Donnie Walsh and others, and let them do what they do. Tom Thibodeau is there. Tom Thibodeau will change the culture for the Knicks. Guys will be held accountable. They will at least try to attempt and compete on the defensive end. And they're bringing young youth in and finally letting it happen. Let quickly develop. Let Obi develop. That's why don't rush him with the injuries. Let it go the proper way. Randall's playing amazing for you. Let Randall keep playing. You decide what you're going to do with the option with him next year. But you got to let it build. So they're playing better basketball than what we've seen in the first 12, 15 games of last year, without a shadow of a doubt. And RJ, I love what RJ does. Some people who are negative was worried about the jump shot. Give it time. It'll come. He does everything else with so much intensity as he rebounds. Today he had like 23 points, like 11 boards. Let it happen over time. There's still a trend. This is still a 25 to 30 win team. Anything above 30 is a bonus. But besides that, when they were during that stretch 4-1, everybody was like, yo, the Knicks are back. The Knicks are back. I had to tell my guy, I said, the Knicks are back from what? When you say the Knicks are back, what does that mean? Because when you say back, we're 5-3. We're 4-1 in the last 5 games. You consider that back? Back from what? From below
That's
mediocre?
the best start they've had in over 10 years.
But in order to be back, no, being back is going to the Eastern Conference Finals. Being back is winning the division. Being back is going to the five. Being back ain't going 4-1. Look what we're celebrating. They went 4-1 in 5 games. Whoop-dee. Storm Capitol Hill.
And then they lost 5 straight after that. Those losses were predictable, and one pitiful loss where they couldn't take care of the ball.
Correct. They're going to have times like that where they did what they did today, and then the next day you're like, what happens? They're still learning. It's still transitioning. But we'll take that win today even without Tatum. That I still got to pinch. But I think somebody fooled us. Maybe Donald Trump put that game on for New York and is lying to us, because I don't really understand how they won that game.
They won the game because they played good team defense. They managed to take advantage of a team that was without Jason Tatum due to health protocols.
Mm-hmm.
Obi Toppin was able to get some big buckets.
That was very good. Yes.
Good dunks. Emmanuel quickly was putting some serious numbers.
Julius
Randle playing like an all-star.
Yes, indeed. And I think RJ had like 21 and 11. I was like, RJ. That's the aggressive RJ.
And you know what? If you was able to do an NBA All-Star game this year, Julius Randle had to at least get it as a reserve. At least as a reserve. There's no way you can average in his 20s and not be an all-star.
Yeah, don't remind me about All-Star game, because I would have won again this year. Chicago was great last year with no Indian. I think Indianapolis gets it in 2024. That's when it comes back, like the All-Star game, 2023, 2024. But Randall would have made it. He would have, as of right now, knocking on wood or anything, he would have been on pace to make it.
Yeah, he really would have. But yeah, this is literally the craziest week of basketball we've ever seen.
Oh man, hello Brooklyn. How did they pull that one off, bro? And Houston, 8 draft picks. 8 draft picks?
Which we may not need, because if they win a championship, we may not need those draft picks. I mean, but then again, some of them they swap with the Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
And LeBron James Jr. has to play 2 more seasons in high school, at least 1 season in college before he gets into the league. So what? You're just gonna be bad on purpose and also being good enough to draft him now that you got Brooklyn's pick?
Well, I guess at least Houston has the choice. That's the biggest thing. You gotta you give up a talent like Harden. I guess you gotta get something. And at least they went in the direction where they got a few players now, and they got a lot of draft picks coming if they use it the right way. And this works out for Brooklyn too. Brooklyn got to go for broke, bro. Their window of opportunity is from now to the next 3 to 4 years. You got Kyrie and Kevin and those guys locked in the contracts. You have to figure out sometime soon how to win. So I think these are sometimes we look at trades in sports and people, it's easy to look at it 10 years from now and say who did well and who did not did well. This trade works out for everybody. James Harden did not want to be there no more. His actions was alienating the team. So it's best to move on from him. They put him somewhere where now this gives this team the opportunity to win now. If the Nets win one ring in 4 years, they feel like they've accomplished that deal in all facets, even with the free agency with Durant and Kyrie just off then. They've never won a title in that franchise ever in their history. So
when you're
this is
not
coming
counting
from
the
New
ABA
Jersey.
title, when
Huh?
you're not counting the ABA championship that they won.
They've never won an NBA championship. My New York Giants has 10 world championships, but they only have 4 Super Bowls. The only thing that everybody gonna talk about is the 4 Super Bowls. So based off NBA championships, they have none from the New Jersey to the Brooklyn days, not the ABA days with Julius
And if the
Erving. We know
Brooklyn
Julius
Nets,
Erving.
and if the Brooklyn Nets could get to the finals and they draw the Lakers, they could get redemption for the loss of the 02 finals when it was Kidd versus Kobe and Shaq.
Yep, and they got physically dominated. So it's an accomplishment for them. The Rockets accomplished as well too. Eight picks. You get players now that guys want to play together. They're gelling. It works out. LeVert is down in Indiana. It works out for everybody. Everybody got something from the deal, and in the long run, it will help everybody. So I don't see anything wrong with any one of the deals. It finally went through. Long time coming.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, and I even said this when I talked to Real Lil the other day, this is a plot twist for Brooklyn. It changes everything.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I can't wait to see once Kyrie finally comes back with them to see how they're gonna work this out. Once they work it out, and if it's anything to what we think it could be, it's gonna be scary, man. Just imagine if they could sell tickets, put more people in the seats.
Yes, I can only imagine. Well, that concludes this episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. Thank you for stopping by, Ryan Walker.
Anytime, man.
And I can't wait to see Brooklyn build on that crazy win over the Magic and the conclusion of the NFL season, assuming that the UK variant doesn't get worse.
Hopefully that everything stays, decent, so we can get get the last of these, all these sporting events in, get them in.
And to all the big balls out there, get your head in the game.
That's a fact, man. Be good, man.